Hi, I'm Marty Kelsey, and welcome to the STEM in 30 Mission Debrief. We are really excited tonight. We are joined by Megan Schaller from St. Barnabas Catholic School in Indianapolis, Indiana. She is one of our Teacher Innovator Institute teachers. Megan, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So, we're going to talk about a whole lot of different things tonight. The Teacher Innovator Institute, how Megan implements some of the things that she learned over the summer in her classroom. But ultimately, tonight is all about you, teachers. We know you're taking your time off in the evening to tune in. We want to answer your questions, and we want to share a whole bunch of resources with you that are from the National Air and Space Museum, and more importantly, they're all free. So we've got a bunch of these resources we're going to share. So we're going to start with Megan, and Megan, tell us a little bit about what you teach and what your classroom looks like.
Okay, sure. So I teach in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am a fifth and sixth grade science teacher. I also am the STEM coordinator for my school. I am the director of robotics. We have a VEX robotics program with 10 teams, and I coach our oldest middle school girls team. So in my classroom, there's a lot going on. A lot of collaboration, a lot of discussions and problem solving with as much real world context as I can provide. I always start my year off with my students, and I tell them that I can't retire until one of them goes to space, because I would love to be the teacher of a student that was able to do that. So I really try to teach my students that science, because I get to teach all subjects. I do earth and space science. We just did ecology. We started our physical science. Just try to get them to find one thing that they absolutely love about it that they could see themselves doing in the future. So kind of talking about careers as much as you would with any 11 and 12-year-olds, but just sort of thinking about not only how do I get past this grade or this test, but how can I take something that I really love and enjoy and make a career out of it.
Megan, you can feel the excitement coming through the video connection here. I can't imagine being in your classroom.
I'm
Remember,
very nervous.
if you're tuning in, remember, put your questions down in the comments. Try to stump Megan. Anything about resources from here at the Air and Space Museum is fair game. Anything about tips and tricks. This mission debrief is based off of our Simple Machines show that came out in December. And I'll give you a little bit of background on this. When I started at the museum, we get to come up with these incredible topics for STEM in 30. And one of the topics that came to mind for me was simple machines. And when I pitched it to the rest of our team, everybody was like, oh, that sounds really boring. And I know from having taught simple machines that it's a difficult topic to teach. And so that's why I really wanted to tackle it. And it works out great for us right now because half of our museum is closed for construction. We're redoing the entire museum top to bottom. We're raising and lowering airplanes every single day. And so our latest episode connects simple machines in your classroom to what's going on in the real world here at the museum. And Megan, I know you've done some work with simple machines. Can you tell us what all you've done?
Yeah. So in my classroom, we have something called STEM days, where basically you get to do a full STEM integration from beginning to end. So STEM is taught, integrated, it's demonstrated, and then it's assessed. So one that I did with sixth graders was we connected it to physical science and energy transformations. And so we took out our VEX kits and took away the motors and just used the pieces. And then actually, you can build different simple machines, and they actually have printable like instructions. So kids went through, they built different ones, and then they had to come up with a chain reaction where they had to like have a little car, and it had to go into a garage, but it had to have four or more simple machines demonstrated in their design, and then they all presented them to the class. And so that was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of problem solving and just building. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways to make a pulley. There's a lot of different like even inclined planes that you can make with materials. So that was fun in my classroom. And then also, as a STEM coordinator, we have a big event every year that I coordinate with an amazing team called Family STEM Night. And this year's theme was Gearing Up for STEM, and it was focused on simple machines. So that was a challenge because the goal was to have all of these hands-on STEM experiences, not just for my students in sixth and fifth grade, but every student in our school from pre-K through eighth grade and their parents. So we had one that was actually very similar to the episode, where you had a lever and you had a fulcrum and you were lifting corn. So we had something like that, but they were lifting sand, like buckets of sand. And then they had to make their own with paint sticks and baggies of rocks and binder clips. We had a ramp it up challenge where they built little cars, and then we had different ramps, or as an inclined plane and wheel and axle. And then we had other things like Spiro chariot races, and we even had gearing it up headbands that we made just for fun, right?
Love it. Love it.
There's lots of different things for simple machines.
Cool. Well, I want to share one of the things that I found out that I kind of discovered while we were writing this show. And it's neat for us because we get to cover a whole bunch of different topics and dive into them for a month and then move on to the next thing. And, you know, I dealt with simple machines for a long time. And when I was teaching, we had these science kits with the demos that we were supposed to do. And nothing ever seemed to work right, which was a good learning experience. But one of the things that we used on the show, which is something that you can use in your classroom and is not very expensive, which I encourage everyone to do, and that is a simple $10 fish scale off of Amazon, because it gives you a good reading, it's consistent, it's easy to use, as opposed to the spring scales that a lot of times come in your carts, you know, in your kits or there in your science classroom that stretch out and they don't always show the right reading, and holding them still, my kids could never do that. So $10 on one of these is absolutely worth it if you're teaching simple machines. You mentioned robotics. I want to remind everybody also that we did do a show on robotics. We've got Dean Kamen, who's involved in FIRST Robotics, on that show, and we talk a lot about robotics in the air and space industry, but also robotics that you can do in your classroom. And it sounds like you're doing some cool stuff with Vex Robotics.
I try. We have a competition coming up. So I had 6th, 7th grade girls, and I've been their coach for 3 years. So that's a lot of fun. But once the season's over, then the kits are sort of fair game for me to use in my classroom too. So far the simple machines and the chain reaction has been the most successful one. So I would say I highly recommend that.
Nice. And we actually have a Vex Robotics competition coming up out at the Stephen F. Udvar Hazy Center in Chantilly, Virginia, I think sometime in February. So kind of cool that that connection's there. We've got a question that came in. Where do you get your inspiration for all of your lessons and your experiments?
Oh, okay. So when I first got into STEM, I think a lot of people have this when they first think of, all right, I want to try STEM, or I want to have more STEM integration, and then you Google the word STEM in your classroom, and then it's just, I mean, there's a million different resources. So one thing I started to do to sort of just channel it in was this is the millennium in me, I use social media. And so I created an Instagram account that was just for teaching, and I followed every teacher that I could find that had something interesting or something unique or just something really cool, even if it was a grade level I didn't teach. And then it sort of has built from there. And then also being in programs like the Teacher Innovator Institute has just, it narrows it down to some really awesome ideas and concepts that you can implement in your own classroom. But I would say, I know it sounds really cliche, but Instagram is a really great place to find inspiration where you're just, oh my gosh, I have those things. I can do that in my room, or I know I teach that lesson in a month. How can I make this work? So that's what I did.
Awesome. So you talk about social media at STEMin30 on Twitter. We're not on Instagram, but you can head over to Facebook as well. So we've got a whole bunch of people watching right now. Make sure that you're sending those questions in. Now, Megan, you talked about the Teacher Innovator Institute, and I know that we've got a deadline coming up pretty soon on that. Tell us what the Teacher Innovator Institute is and what you learned from it last summer.
The Teacher Innovator Institute is like winning the lottery of teacher professional development. No, it's amazing. So it's 2 weeks in the summer in Washington, D.C., where you get to collaborate with teachers from all over the country who teach all these different grade levels and subjects. And I think innovative is really the best word to describe the Teacher Innovator Institute, because it's just full of creative ideas. And then you get to this amazing city with these awesome resources like these museums and all of these professionals, and you just get to learn together and collaborate. So I had the privilege of being in the second cohort, and we were able to be there during the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. It was like a party every day. I mean, there was so much going on. There was an Apollo festival going on. We got to see the Neil Armstrong suit. We went behind the scenes to like the meteor vault, the Go for the Moon program on like the lawn of Washington, D.C. I mean, it was the most inspiring thing that I was able to bring back to my classroom, and I came back with a lot of resources, and I did a really exciting project with it, so it was wonderful.
Cool. Well, last summer I didn't get a chance to hang out with the TII teachers nearly as much as I wanted to because we were busy with the Apollo stuff going on. But the previous summer I did get a chance to hang out with them. And the thing that I thought was really cool about the Teacher Innovator Institute was the collaboration between teachers. You know, we had a curriculum plan and we had some cool behind the scenes things, and the teachers loved that. But to me, seeing the teachers talking to each other, even at lunch and during breaks, about, oh, how did you do that? And what about this? Have you thought about this? Did you get that same thing last summer from just hanging out with all of these other incredible teachers?
Yes, absolutely. Even in like at the end of the day, one day in my dorm room, um my roommate and I had other teachers like popping in just because our door was open and they heard us talking about things, or in the lounge afterwards. Even there's like a Facebook group now where everyone just posts their ideas. I think someone just posted that they won a grant for 3D printing and they wanted ideas. And then, I mean, the sense of community that is built and that carries on through the school year, you feel very supportive and you have somewhere to go where again, where you're like, I'm teaching physical science, what do you have? And then suddenly it's not just a Google search, it's all of these amazing professionals who have experiences and the same resources as you, and all of these ideas that you get to pull from, which has made teaching so much more innovative for me.
That is awesome. So we've got a question that came in. What's been the most rewarding piece of your teaching career?
The whole thing. um, so I'm at the point now where my first students that I ever taught are applying to colleges, and that's really exciting to see that hopefully that I made an impact and that they went on to high school and they're choosing these classes. I've run into some of their high school teachers who are saying, I can tell the students that came from your school because they have this love for science, or they're taking drafting classes, or there's this one girl and she's the only girl in a class full of guys in this like physics or engineering class and she came from your school. So I think that the most rewarding part is seeing these students leave my school with this cultural identity. That was our goal, was this shift in identity of what is STEM and what is science and what can you be when you grow up. So seeing sort of the future of STEM and science in my students.
That's awesome. And teachers, if you're tuning in watching, please know that we appreciate here at the Air and Space Museum everything that you do in your classrooms every single day. I was a teacher for 17 years. I know what it's like to literally be in the trenches with the students, and you are making a difference. I'll tell one quick story. We have a museum studies program here in Washington, D.C., and I had a meeting in the director's conference room here at the National Air and Space Museum, and sitting next to me was a former fifth grader that I had in Missouri that is now in this museum studies program here in DC, and to see how far she's come and that little piece of impact that I had way back then is really cool. So teachers, thank you for everything that you do. It is truly appreciated by all of us in the museum world and outside that, but you know, you are making a difference to those students. We've got another question here. Carla Gull wants to know, do you have any suggestions for simple machines outside?
Oh, so I know I saw when I was doing research for Family STEM Night, and I saw just you like kids would go outside and they had rocks and they had planks and they were just doing catapults and just testing the different fulcrum and just like shooting things up, and they were like preschoolers or something like that, and it was not structured and it was not, you know, nobody had paper and filling things out, but they were just figuring out where to put it, where to put the plank, where to put the I don't think they were rocks, but just using materials outside and seeing the distance. Another one for outside is if you did catapults. I was inspired by someone from cohort 1 in the Teacher Innovator Institute. She did catapults, but I think they went outside. I hope they went outside because they did cotton balls with paint on them and then they shot them at canvases. So I would hope that one was outside. I thought about doing that one, but I didn't. It's I'm in Indiana in the winter, so you can't really trust the weather on that.
Sure, sure. Another hint that that I have is just to have kids look for simple machines all over the place. When we were writing our Simple Machines show, my co-host Beth and I had walked out of the museum, and the way we have to go out because of the construction right now is through the loading dock. We're walking back into the museum in the loading dock, and Beth looks at me and goes, "Ooh, look at that!" And she got so excited because there was a snowblower that had an Archimedes screw inside it, and she's like, "That's an Archimedes screw!" And it was just this super geek moment. But I think that piece of that, have kids do that. Look for those simple machines or the complex machines. Look for those all around you, because once you've started learning about them, you can see them everywhere. And I think that's a very powerful thing for kids to see. All right, we've got another question. How did the Teacher Innovator Institute help you learn about using museums in your area? Because not everybody can come to the Smithsonian, but did it give you any tips on how to use your local museum?
Absolutely. So, like I mentioned, I had the privilege of being there for the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11. So, I was able to bring that back to my classroom, and then we did Apollo Week. So, one of the resources that TII sent to me when I got back was this traveling exhibition service. It was called, I wrote it down, Destination Moon. It was the Apollo 11 program, and these were posters, these high quality posters that you would see in a museum that went through all of the Apollo, from like planning the mission, who the astronauts were, coming home. So I took those and then some of the other amazing resources like posters and just and I did a classroom transformation, but I also did it in the hallway of my school. So for a full week there were these, it was a museum gallery, and I paired that with a Scholastic article, and they did a scavenger hunt where they went around and they had to read the posters and learn about all the astronauts. I paired that with two STEM lessons. One was the students had to make an adhesive to to repair the Saturn V rocket after it had launched. It had broken. And then another was a lunar lander where they had to test shock absorbent materials to keep Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in a cup. The grand finale was we partnered with the Indiana State Museum for a private IMAX screening of the Apollo 11 First Steps edition. So we got to go see that, and that movie was playing at all of the museums over the summer, and I was so mad I didn't get to go. So it was wonderful that we were able to then spend the day at the museum, but they got to see this amazing movie, or I guess documentary. And then another one we did when I was in Washington, D.C. over the summer, we got to take a private tour of the International Spy Museum, which was so cool. I'd never been there before. And then we had a great talk with an author of an amazing book. So when I came back to my classroom, I was trying to figure out how do you bring spying and that into a science class. And we ended up doing, I did another classroom transformation where it was a science secret agency, and they had to use their knowledge of scientific methods to like solve a case and a crime. And so I dressed up like one of the Men in Black characters. And again, it was just all this inspiration from the museums that had been in DC, and then also being able to come here to our state museums. I would have never done had I not done the Teacher Innovator Institute.
I love it, and I love the spy theme. As a matter of fact, our show in January is about bees, but in February, it's all about spies. And we went to the Spy Museum, and so that's featured heavily in the show. And the other really cool place that you're going to get to see in February is the CIA headquarters museum that no one gets to go to. It's not open to the public. It took us all kinds of security to get through and get in, and they checked all of our equipment, but we got to see all of this stuff and talk to folks at the CIA about some of the artifacts that they have there in the museum and some of the incredible technology that they use for spying. And so that's our February show that's coming out. We hope everybody gets a chance to tune into that one. We had John Verrill make a suggestion. We talked about simple machines outside, and he thought about a seesaw demonstration, which is awesome. It's something that you probably have on the playground. There's so much that you could do with just a simple seesaw. So that's a really great suggestion. I do want to go over real quickly a couple of resources that STEM in 30 produces for teachers tuning in that you may not be aware of besides just the full episodes. We have a couple of things. You talked about careers earlier. We have a series called My Path, and we're going to post one of the videos down in the comments section along with the playlist. My Path are a series of 3 to 5 minute videos with really cool people, a lot of astronauts. We've got engineers, we've got a musician in there talking about how they got to where they are. And one of them that I was looking at yesterday, Victor Glover, who's one of the SpaceX astronauts that's getting ready to go up. I think he's scheduled for the second crewed SpaceX mission. He talks about how one of his first jobs was working at a 7-Eleven and what he learned from just that simple experience. So My Path is one of the series. And then the other one is called Smithsonian Science Starters. And on our Facebook page, we just published last week one that is one of my favorites. We got a chance to work with a vacuum chamber and a speaker to talk about how sound doesn't travel in a vacuum. The cool part about it, though, was we had NASA astronaut Scott Tingle with us playing the guitar, which he did in space, and talking about how sound doesn't travel through a vacuum and how they're able to communicate on a spacewalk. And my absolute favorite part of that was I got to jam with Scott Tingle, and I have no musical abilities whatsoever. He was on his electric guitar, and I was on a recorder like a middle school student might play. But the Smithsonian Science Starter series are a bunch of videos that have demos that you can do in your classroom with an expert talking about how that simple demo connects to the real world science. So we really encourage you to check those out. Megan, tell us what's next in your classroom. What's the next classroom transformation you've got coming up?
I made it sound like I do those all the time. They're a lot of work.
I know.
No, so let's see, fifth grade. So fifth grade, they learned about the periodic table of elements today, and I mean, it's the first time they've had time to even look at it, so I'm surprising them tomorrow. They get to, for fun, they get to make name tags with their names, and they get to use the periodic table. So that one will be fun, but then we'll dive a lot deeper into the idea that like solids, liquids, and gases, and the idea that gases take up space. So I have a really fun activity that we're gonna do with like a graduated cylinder and a cotton ball, and you put it in water. So lots of hands-on stuff there. And then sixth grade just started their kinetic and potential energy and the idea of the difference between the two. So we have a lot that we're going to do with that. We're going to do roller coaster simulations. We're going to do like when you drop a ball, how high does it bounce? I do something with the law of conservation of energy and the idea. You've seen them online, right? The videos where like an amazing physics teacher will have a bowling ball hanging from like suspended somehow, and so it shows that like they release it from their nose and it doesn't hit them. I use a teapot and a piece of string because that's what I have in my classroom. And so I've only had one student actually hit their nose on it, but I'll be hanging that from my ceiling too. I have a crossbow too that uses suction cup darts, and so we'll use that for elastic potential energy. I have a lot coming up, so it's an exciting time.
I absolutely love it. Teachers, if you're watching right now and you've got a demo idea that you think would make a great Smithsonian Science Starter, we would love to hear that. And it's a great way to share ideas. So if you're watching and you've got this killer idea that you think would be great in Megan's classroom or somebody else's classroom, please put it down in the comments. And then we have astronauts coming in here in the future. As a matter of fact, next Tuesday, we have NASA astronaut Anne McLean and Nick Hague coming in. They did a spacewalk together. We haven't told them this yet, but we're going to do a hands-on demo with them to talk about the equipment that they use for a spacewalk. We're going to surprise them a little bit, and we're going to end it by talking about a really important piece of equipment called a MAG, or a maximum absorbency garment, that they wear under their spacesuits because they're outside for long periods of time. So we're going to kind of surprise them with that a little bit. But if you've got a demo that you think would be awesome, especially if you could connect it to real world science that an astronaut or an engineer is doing, that's one of the great things about what I get to do now is I have access to some of those experts, and so we can make those connections. So we really want you to put those great demos down in the comment section and share them with each other. And don't be surprised if we, maybe use some of those ideas on upcoming videos. So we've got a lot of people questions, or a lot of people watching. If you've got questions, put them down in the comments. We've got a few minutes left here. The other thing that I want to mention is we've got a series that it's only 5 videos. We released the first one a couple of weeks ago. The next one comes out here, I think, next week, and they're called Middle School Myths. And we have somebody that I'm guessing you've heard of. It's Adam Savage talking about it. And the first one was, what happens if you get a bad grade? Is it the end of the world? And we've got him talking about, is it important if you're popular? And what about if you like weird hobbies? And so we've got these short videos. And if anybody that we've worked with, it felt like Adam was talking to that kid that sits back in the corner, that maybe doesn't have a lot of friends, that maybe is into stuff that not a lot of other people are into, and really connected with them. So I encourage you to go check that out. I know Beth is sitting over here and she's going to put that down into the comments section so that you can look at it, but it's also on our Facebook page. So Megan, what would you tell people that want to apply for the Teacher Innovator Institute?
So it is not as overwhelming as it might think. I know that it is the time of year for a lot of professional developments. Teachers are thinking about what they're going to do in the summer. So I have sort of put it out there to teacher friends, this is an amazing, you should do this. And a question I get a lot is like, it's 2 weeks in the summer, it's away from my family, it's right before school start. Is it realistically possible? It's wonderful. It's incredibly accommodating. And you also get to be in Washington, D.C. The application process, I would say you made actually a great video that I watched several times on how to make a good application video. And I had never done anything like that before. And I got it done in a few hours and it was really simple. I was actually really surprised about that. But the best part of the application process is, remember, it's the Teacher Innovator Institute. You are to come up with this lesson plan or some idea that you're going to implement at your school, and you get to be as creative as you want. As teachers, we sort of have to think about what are our limitations, funding, resources. Well, what if you could just come up with the most creative, unique lesson that your students would find amazing and engaging, and you could cover as many standards as you wanted to? I mean, really be as creative as you want without those limitations. That's what this program provides you. And I think that it's absolutely worth the time to put in the application because this will change your professional life.
That's awesome. And if you're thinking about applying, there is a video online of me talking about how to create the video. Obviously, I'm a video guy and we do all that stuff, but it's really not as daunting. You can do it with your cell phone. The biggest hint, turn it sideways, but beyond just the technical of making the video, for us, and I get to review a bunch of these videos. And so here in the next month or two, I'm going to have 50 or 60 videos to watch because we divide them up and we score them and we do all of that. And what I'm looking for when I'm scoring these videos, I want to see you. Like, I want to see what it's like to be in your classroom. Talking to you tonight, Megan, I can tell you are off the charts energetic when those kids walk in that classroom. They've got, full energy every day. And that's what we want to see in the video. We want to see that excitement of what it's like to be in your classroom come through. And those are the ones that jump to the top. And for me, the video is always the coolest part because we do get to know the people more than just reading the application and letters of recommendation and all of that. So I know the applications can look daunting, but I do encourage everybody to apply for that because I wish it was something that I had been able to do when I was teaching. All right, are you still, I know you talked about sharing stuff on the Facebook group. Did you steal any ideas from any of the other teachers and implement them in your classroom this year?
I don't think so, but I have to say, isn't that sort of like the rule of teaching? It's either borrowed, stolen, or we're all building off of each other. So I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I'm on that group every day. Maybe not commenting, but just seeing what other people are doing with the resources that they have and just being really supportive and cheering each other on. It's wonderful to see. I really love seeing what everybody's doing. So if I haven't stolen anything yet, I will, and I will.
Awesome. Well, Megan, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Everybody that tuned in and watched, we really appreciate it. Thank you for everything that you do for your students. We cannot thank you enough for the work that you do every single day. Be sure to check out STEM in 30 on Facebook and on Twitter. Grab those resources, use them in your classroom. And if you want to in the comments section, please share those ideas with us and with Megan and all of those other teachers so that everybody can bring some awesome stuff into their classroom. And be sure to tune in next week when we release our newest episode all about bees called Buzz the Tower. And the great thing about this episode that comes out next week, it's got a lot of very simple things that you can do in your classroom to help bees and help your local environment. So, Megan, thank you again.
Absolutely, thank you so much. And just so you know, if you wanted to steal any of my ideas, like I said, I do use social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the STEMstronaut. So everything I talked about, there's pictures on there. Go ahead, steal them. That's fine with me.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Megan. Everybody that tuned in, take care and good luck in class tomorrow.